Hello, humans of the internet. We are back with more Rants and Bants. We're going to call it Rants and Bants now, you know that?
I like that.
I quite like it.
It's got a thing to it, isn't it?
It's very British.
Yeah, Rants and Bants.
Rants and Bants, mate. But yes, today, or let's kind of recap a little bit. In one of the last videos, hopefully this one goes out second because otherwise none of this will make any sense. But in the previous video, we talked about the kind of staccato, what lives in what. You know, a logo is one part of the visual identity. The visual identity is one part of a brand's identity. And the brand identity helps you shape the recognizable reputation, which is the brand. And that is all done through the continuous, ever-evolving juiciness of deliciousness process that is branding. But today what I want to talk about is brand identity in a little bit more detail. Now again, it's all fairly, like, it's all semantics, but I do believe it's really important to, you know, like some people talk about, well, it doesn't really matter the difference between, you know, a font and a typeface, and like, you know, like, I suppose it doesn't really matter, but you should know the difference. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, it doesn't really matter, but you should know. And I think that's the same with the foundational elements of like brand building, especially if you're a brand designer or a graphic designer and you're here, you should be able to understand, have a good basis and a good knowledge of what these things are. So, because then it's easy for you to sell them and articulate them and use them and activate them and action them, or whatever funky buzzy words I want to use. And I think I actually did this post or a previous post on LinkedIn, and there was this one chap who had a particular opinion, and he said to me that the brand identity shouldn't even have visuals in it, and his argument was it was more about feelings and emotions, and he'd obviously read a lot of Marty Neumeier books, who is the legend, and you know, who's obviously just copying what he said. But there again, it is semantics, because what he was saying was somewhat true. A brand's identity is way more than the visuals, which is what I was saying. But he was basically also saying that there was no visuals, which is unfortunately a lie, because when I think of like the word identity, it's essentially the things that you can identify with a particular brand. That's always a really good way of thinking about it. So the brand identity is the things that you can identify with a particular brand, and that does Mr. LinkedIn tool on the internet. Sorry for being rude there. Just called him an absolute tool. What is, you know, the visuals are a part of a brand's identity. It doesn't matter how you try and spin it in your design snobbery. Like, it's the truth. All right. So, right, what are we talking about? Went off on one there. So, the brand identity. So, what I've got here, again, is a little visual, this was right, about brand identity. And I've kind of broken it down into, again, like super simple terms and a super simple visual that will allow you to see the importance of these things and how they kind of spread out. And I've broken it into like the core, the orbit, and the outer field for no other reason. This isn't real. This is all made up. Do you know what I mean? But when I think of the core brand identity, like I mentioned, which is the visual identity, the verbal identity, the product and service, the personality, the story, and the name. Those are the 6 core elements of a brand's identity. And then, did we talk about this in this one? The Sonic? Was that in the last one, or was that this one? That was the last one, so I better reiterate it. So, there are obviously other elements that do add up to build a brand's identity. These are the main 6, but if you are a product or a service, there is, or in like hospitality or something like that, where like scent and sensory and sonic branding is a really important thing. I would be adding those into a brand's identity. But for everybody, the majority of people on the planet, if we focus on these 6 things, we'll have a pretty solid build of a brand's identity. And the core, those 6 things that I've just mentioned in the little white bit up here, those are the things that you can build with intention. Those are the things that you can personally control, because the reason we work as designers, as humans, as founders on our brand identity is so we can manage the perception that the outside world has of us and has of our brand. So we can control the visual identity, we can control the verbal identity, we can control our personality, our name, our story, and our product and service. These are the things that we have total control over. But when we put them out into the real world, we start to lose that control. And that is what the orbit about is, this, like the little kind of red ring, red ring, with the little white writing around it, sorry, end joke, which is not a very good end joke, and I can't talk about it because I don't want to get blocked. I've done it now, haven't I? Golly. But yeah, it's nothing rude. But so the whole point here is that the orbit, so this is how people feel about it in the real world. This is the stuff that they experience, okay? So these are things like the behaviour, the experience, the culture. Like once we've put our brand identity, our name out there, our product out there, it's then we start to then lose control of how it's perceived and how it's judged and how it works. And like obviously, like some people might look at it and see one thing and hear another thing, and do you know what I mean? So we start to lose that perception as it goes out into the real world, and that is the orbit, that is their experience, all right? And then you have this outer field, which is this reputation that hopefully, if you have a good control of your brand's identity and you have a product people like and a name people like, and they feel that you've got good integrity and good competence and you've got a good community and good narrative, that's I think how you build a good reputation. And again, we'll go into that in a later video because I've only got 10 minutes for this, but your reputation should continuously resonate out, because that's what we're trying to do. Remember, is like a brand is a recognizable reputation. So by controlling this visual identity, this verbal identity, and all of these other elements within this, within the core, within the brand identity, we build this reputation. But that reputation somewhat lives outside of us, and this outer field is what they remember about you, okay? So that is the most important thing, and that is the reason why we work really hard on the elements within the visual identity, which are logo. What else is in a visual? We'll see if you're learning, Timmy. What else is in a visual identity?
Colour palette.
Yes.
Typography.
Yes.
My face.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, I mean, photography style. Yeah. If you had some photography on your website of your beautiful, handsome face, video, that would definitely be on there. Video, you know, anything that anybody can see is essentially your visual identity. And then the verbal identity, another thing that we control is our messaging, our tone, our voice, you know, the things we talk about, how we talk about them, how we express our thoughts and our feelings through captions and comments and web copy and all the rest of it. Incredibly important, something that we can control. And again, like, it helps us position ourselves to the right people. The personality that we want our brand to have, you'll see a lot of my stuff is funky. Punk. Funk. I just wanted to say it because it rhymed. Yeah, lots of punk energy, lots of hand-drawn energy, lots of like that kind of punk kind of, you know, no bullshit vibe. That's something that I really, really want to kind of dive into with my visuals, and that's my personality. Like, I grew up in the tattoo world, tattoo apprentice, artist. Like, I've always wanted to continue that kind of punk skate culture, punk rock attitude within my identity. It's something that I've always brought through, and I'm trying to do more and more and more of, but that allows me to put my personality into my personal brand. I don't like, fuck, that's another thing, I don't like personal brands. We'll talk about that one in another one, but let's just call it a human brand. don't really like personal brand. It makes it all a little bit markety speak. But again, I divulge or divest. Divulge. Right word. The name we can control. Digress. Yeah, we would. Yeah, digress.
Yeah.
The name, something else we can control. The story that we share with people, something, as long as it's true. The most important thing about building a brand is building a brand around truth. Making up stories for the sake of trying to sell products will make you fail quickly. So don't make up your story. And obviously the product and service, you get to choose your offer, you get to choose the service you build. So case in point, your brand identity is made up of these 6 things. We have full control over these 6 things, and what they do is they allow us, if we work hard on them, to manage the perception that the outside world has of our brand. Because as you'll remember what I just said, once you put your product, your brand, your ideas out into the real world, you start to lose a little bit of control about them, or control of them, which is why working on your brand, working on your brand identity, your visual identity, and all of the elements here are so important, because they give you the control you need. They control the perception of the outside world that it has on you. That is brand building 104455792. I was going to say 101, but everybody would say that. Do you know what I mean? So that's it. That's it for today. We'll be back. I'm not too sure what the next one will be, because I'm going to have to make the graphic. So once I've made the graphic, I'll come back and I'll talk you through another one. All right? All right, Timmy?
Yep.
All right, that's it.
Done.
See you later. Done.